Excuse me. Okay. All right. The Board of Zoning Appeals will come to order. Thank you for coming today. First, I'd just like to let you know the agenda is outside on the table, if you'd like a copy. We have 4 cases today, and the process we do is as follows. I will have staff introduce the case, tell us a little bit about it, the background of it and things, and then one of the people that was assigned the case, who went out to the property, and others of us did too, but the person assigned to your case went out to the property, made notes, and is going to kind of paint us a picture of what they saw. And then we'll ask the applicant to come forward. We will ask questions of the applicant, and then after we're done with that, we will ask if there's any public comment or if there's letters in the file that we need as a board to know about. And once we're satisfied we've got all the information we need, we will then close the public hearing, which only means that you don't get to talk anymore, and that we will talk. And we will talk through all the points that we have to meet based on state law. And the person who's been assigned to your case has the ability to table the decision if they feel they need more information or have some other extenuating circumstances that they feel they need more time for. Rarely happens. And then the other options are obviously to approve or deny the request or portions thereof. And then after that, you would work with staff to continue on your way with whatever decisions have been made. So with that, I will ask, if you would do this, I'd appreciate it, that the reading of the minutes for April 17th.
Move to waive the reading of the minutes.
Okay,
Second.
it's seconded. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes from the 17th?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Okay, our first hearing is 3521 Lake Eastbrook Boulevard Southeast. You want to go ahead?
Of course. Good afternoon, everyone. The first case on the agenda today is 3521 Lake Eastbrook Boulevard Southeast. The applicant is adding a new front entrance and enclosing a rear porch to provide more internal space for their business. To do so, they are requesting a dimensional variance of 25 feet to eliminate the required 25-foot front setback from the front property line, a dimensional variance of 21 feet to reduce the required 25-foot front setback from the water's edge to 4 feet, and a dimensional variance of 71 feet to reduce the required 75-foot setback from the water's edge to 4 feet. The site is located in the southeast portion of the city, indicated on the map there with a star north of 28th Street and east of East Beltline. The site is located on Lake Eastbrook. You can see there the property indicated in blue. It's a lakefront property sandwiched between the lake and Lake Eastbrook Boulevard. The site is improved with a single-story structure and a parking lot. The building does not extend over Lake Eastbrook like the case we had in April, but it is within the waterfront setback. The back deck is proposed to be enclosed. And while the deck is existing, the zoning ordinance treats decks and structures differently. The setbacks are different, so we are bringing, this request is being brought to seek a variance for that setback because of the change from a deck to an enclosed space. The front entrance is proposed to expand slightly. As the structure is built at the front lot line, this requires a variance from the front yard setback. I've included just a brief overview showing the deck, and that's the space that's proposed to be enclosed. The footprint of the deck is not proposed to be expanded. The enclosure will follow the same dimensions of the deck. And then on your screen, you'll see an image of the front entrance that is proposed to be slightly expanded. If you look at the roof line, you can see the expansion there on the right. It's proposed to be enclosed with a new door and concrete steps coming off the side. And again, because this building is built at the front lot line, that expansion of the building requires a dimensional variance for the front yard setback. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Lewis for the report.
There he is.
Thanks, Rowan. So I visited the site yesterday around midday. It's a single-story commercial building. Building appears to have been, somewhat pieced together over the years. It's unclear when the last addition was made to it, but it seems like it's been decades. I think the pictures do the building justice. It's not in bad shape, but I think I'd call it tired, need of a refresh. It's built to the front property line, so everything that would be done here would be in the setback. It's a pretty straightforward. What you see is what's really there on the pictures. I mean, we discussed the surrounding neighborhood, I think, a little bit on a case a couple weeks ago. But right, the mall's right across the street from it with big box stores, and there's a number of these type of buildings all along Lake Eastbrook that are perched in that about 27 feet of buildable area, and where they've built out pretty much every square inch of that buildable area along Lake Eastbrook.
Is the applicant available? Come on up. You need your name for the record.
Michael, last name
Just go
Ailo.
over.
Hello,
Hi. Your name.
Michael Ailo.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Lewis, or I'm sorry, would you like to add anything to what you just heard?
I mean, it explains everything. We're trying to, improve it and make a little bit more room for us inside, especially because we have a small, from the top picture, you can see there's like a small hallway that we can use, like it's so narrow. We can get rid of the hallway, add the deck in the back. It'll give us a lot more room inside. It's 144 square feet of room, 12 by 12 deck. The building is 950 square feet right now, and if we can add the 4 by 12 in the front, there will be enough room because when we have people coming in, we have only like four seatings, and some people are waiting, like standing and waiting till they get. We do eyelashes, that's all we do, and we're busy. We have right now 6 stylists that are always, lashing, and we have a receptionist. So, 4 or 5 people coming in, they're waiting, they're standing. If I can just add that 4 feet out, I can have at least 2 to 3 more chairs inside, and it will be more comfortable. Then it will enhance it from outside, because anyway, I'm putting, I want to, get permits and change windows, change sidings. It needs renovation, and I'm asking if I can get the, the approval. Might as well do everything at one time and improve it. It will look so nice. Especially David next door, he got the approval, so we can, both buildings will be improved. I looked at the other building. I didn't know that, I could do the same what we're doing right now, because I was going to buy it, but then I didn't know what to do with it. And perfect that he got it. That's going to be improved by us, and it will, improve the whole area. He did improve Value Furniture City when he bought it. There used to be Saifi's restaurant. So the strip will look a lot better. The building will look nicer. From the front, I'm not taking any parking space. If you can look at it's adjacent to the same size, so it's like a dead space over here. But I want to improve the front anyway. Might as well if we can just push it out. This is what I'm asking. And I don't think, I mean, it's not gonna hurt anybody, especially the deck. It's already there, we don't use it. If I cannot do it, I'm still gonna, fix the deck. It's old. Nobody uses it at all because nobody's gonna sit outside. But it would make a lot of sense, especially I have two girls that sits, it's hot when the sun hits it. And no matter how much the AC, I have a 4-ton AC and it's still hot, but if we open it more, there's a tree right, if we open that deck, tree is, will be blocking the sun, and I'm planning to put like a mini split AC in that room. If I put it right now, it will be too cold on them. Yeah, we can't do lashes because it will dry the glue and then the lashes won't work. But if it's far away, then, it will give enough cool air that, it will be like a backup for my AC. Everything will work good. I mean, you guys decide, but that's what we're asking.
Great. Ms. Schaefer? Oh, I'm sorry.
This one's
I'm
Mr. Lewis.
sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. So, Mr. Lewis, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions for the applicant, no.
I'm going to see if there's anybody else who would like to talk
Sure.
to us, okay?
Yes.
You can sit down.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anybody else who would like to talk to us about 3521 Lake Eastbrook Drive? Do you know if there's any letters in the file? No?
There,
No, we did not receive any communication from any neighbors. There was no communication received by our office or that the applicant sent to us.
What would you like to do, Mr. Lewis?
I think I'll start by proposing a motion, but I guess my first, just get a gut check a little bit here. He's at,
Close the public hearing?
oh yeah, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Go ahead.
I'm treating both of the requests as the same. I guess if any board members feel strongly about one request versus the other request, just get a little bit of a feel for that before I start this.
We all good with that? Okay.
Okay, standard one, exceptional or extraordinary. The majority of the lot area is in Lake Eastbrook, right? Only 27 feet of the site is land, and all of that 27 feet is in the front yard setback. The building has been there for well before the ordinance had these setback requirements, and that is the exceptional, extraordinary circumstance that allows us to proceed with a variance. Standard two, substantial property rights. Other commercial property owners within this district would be allowed to expand or improve their business, right? These aren't large expansions. They would be within a normal footprint or boundary of a building, or a lot area. Because this one is fully in a setback, no matter what they do, it's going to be requesting a variance. So yeah, there's a substantial property right here that's been that this owner does not have if it can't get a variance. Not self-created. The building has been in this configuration for longer than the ordinance has been applicable to this configuration. So they did not create this issue. There's no substantial detriment to the neighbors. In fact, it's a benefit to the neighboring properties in the neighborhood to allow them to expand and improve their property. We had no communication from other businesses or neighborhood groups or anyone opposing this. So take that as evidence of no detriment. And then five, this really does support the goals of the master plan by allowing the continued use of the building for local business. The master plan designates the area as a community activity center, and the continued use of personal services here is consistent with that vision, and allowing for a variety of different commercial spaces at different rent levels and price points for different kinds of businesses, I think is important and is highlighted by the master plan.
Support. It's a motion to approve,
So that's a motion to
obviously.
approve. Yes.
And there's been support. Did you want to add any conditions whatsoever?
No, I don't
Okay.
think there's necessary to add any conditions. I do have one, actually, I should have asked a question of the planning department. If they wanted to put a roof over the entry at a future date, but not enclose it, is that covered in this variance, or would they have to come back for that?
The part that's before you for the variance is the enclosed part of their new entrance. So they're essentially bumping out the building wall to meet the existing roof line. As you can see in the photo here, that door is underneath the roof
Yep.
line. If they were to enclose that new space, they likely would need to come back for another variance.
But if they just wanted to put a canopy over it later because they want to keep rain off people's heads, is that?
Yeah, a canopy would not require a variance. Yep.
And I don't need to change anything. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, we have a motion to approve. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, good luck. All right, work with staff after today, and you can get going. Yeah, thank you. All right, our next case is 1111 Second Street Northwest. Mr. Rowan.
The next case on the agenda is 1111 Second Street Northwest. The applicant is requesting a dimensional variance of 19.4 feet to reduce the required 20-foot rear setback to 0.6 feet, a dimensional variance of 11.4 feet to reduce the required combined side yard setback from 14 feet to 2.6 feet. The applicant is proposing to convert an existing secondary building to a primary structure for the purposes of 3 residential units. The property is located on the northwest side of town, indicated here by the yellow star. The property is located just north of I-96 or 196, just off of 2nd Street, really close to the exit off 196. On the screen, you'll see the property. There's an existing single-family home at the front of the property and then a secondary building at the rear of the property. The applicant is proposing converting that back building to 3 residential units, townhouse style. Because the building is currently used as an accessory building, there are different setback requirements for accessory buildings and primary buildings. Converting the building to residential will make it a primary building, kicking into those primary building setbacks, hence the request for the dimensional variances. According to building department records, the back building was constructed in 1920 as a single-story garage. In 1926, an addition was made to the building to add a second story. The site currently does not meet green space requirements for a single-family property. Reclassifying the property from single-family to multifamily by adding those 3 units will bring the site into closer conformance with the green space standards, as the green space requirements for multifamily are lower than for single-family. The density limit for the property, including 1105 Second Street, that kind of smaller rectangular parcel to the east, is 9 total units. Oh, excuse me. The density limit for the property excluding 1105 Second Street is 9 units. Adding 1105 Second Street would bring the density limit to 13. The applicant is proposing 4 total units for the property, well below the density limits of the zoning ordinance. 1105 Second Street Northwest is currently being used informally as parking for the property. Staff recommends a condition of approval, if approved, that 1111 Second Street and 1105 Second Street Northwest are combined. The variances were written intending for the properties to be combined. If the board wishes to not issue that condition on an approval or a denial, I can rewrite the variance request to account for that kind of jog in the property at the corner. It would change the request slightly. I would have to add a couple more side setbacks into the request, but that's something I'm able to do.
Okay. And just a point of clarification, we are, because of the way the code's written, we're asking for all of these setback reductions, but they already exist.
Correct, yep. So the building, here's a survey of the property. The building already exists, but because it's an accessory building, they're non-conforming setbacks.
Yep.
Converting it to a primary building will increase the non-conformity, which is not legal for staff to do. It requires variance action to account for that increase in the setbacks.
Okay.
I've indicated the side setbacks on the screen in orange and the rear setback there in purple.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, and I will turn it over to Mr. Lewis again for the report.
All right, yeah, I also visited this building yesterday, after the first building. It's a two-story brick building. Before I read the staff report, I wrote down it was built in the early 20th century, about 100 years ago, based on the brickwork and the shape of the windows, and I was pleased to be right. At some point, they built a 3-foot CMU parapet on the front of the building and rebuilt the roof to single slope it to the back of the property. It's in poor upkeep. Most of the windows are boarded over. There's weed trees growing all around it. Ivy's grown on it. It's been graffitied a number of times on the backside. Brick is spalling in a number of places. It is in poor upkeep. And probably could get torn down if something substantial doesn't get renovated in it. You can't really tell from any of the aerials, but there's substantial slope on the rear side of the lot along the alley. 6 to 8 feet of grade change going up. So like the bottom of the building to the kind of the middle 2/3, kind of where the number 28 is on the screen. The grade slopes from north is the lowest and south is the highest along there. Just interesting. Most of the alley side windows have been infilled with CMU blocks, assumed to keep people out of it. That covers it for the.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Okay. Hi. If you just give us your name.
Barry Klein.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to take this request away after hearing everything about that building. I was going to retire, and then I had this opportunity. So this is what we do. We've been doing this for like 15 years, taking really old houses, mostly condemned and blighted houses, and rebuilding them to the previous look. So that's why we're crazily excited about this place, because I think it could be a really neat thing. As you drive into Grand Rapids or out of Grand Rapids, you can see it from the highway. It's not a pretty picture currently. Mm-hmm. So I also own the house next door, so I'm excited to have it fixed up. And
On which side?
on the west side.
Okay. Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I went around the neighborhood trying to get in touch with people. I was able to get to 3 people, and they were all supportive. One person was concerned about parking. I helped her realize that you can park on that street. You can park on the other side. Nobody does, but you can park on both sides of the street, and we'll be using that extra lot for parking. So then she was concerned about parties, and I really couldn't comment on that yet. It won't be me having the party. But those were the only concerns. Everybody else was really excited about it. There's constantly trash being left behind the building. Mm-hmm. The city's had to send people out multiple times, and you can see the fines that have accumulated on the building for disrepair. So hopefully we can take care of that.
Okay. I'll see if Mr. Lewis has questions.
Yeah, what's your timeline, or what are your aspirations?
So if you approve this, then I have to go back to the building department and get any plans that we have approved. We're going to do exactly what they've recommended, do the 3 townhouse structure. Inside the building, it's got brick walls, full brick walls through it. Ooh. And they go all the way up through the ceiling. So the structure currently works really well for that design. And we're ready to go. I have I have quite a few tenants in town that are going to help me clean it out. It's been filled with stuff, so if anybody wants to go gold hunting in there, as long as you take stuff out when you take something, you're good. So we will probably start as soon as we can close on it, which is probably the first week of August.
What are your plans for management
Management,
of the apartment?
that would be me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you own it at that point? Because you don't, do you own this right now?
No, I don't own the property. So if we get approval today to do this, then we're going to close on it, then I will own it.
Okay.
Then we'll go forward.
Okay. I wasn't clear on that part.
So do you have an option on the additional property for the parking then as well?
That is part of the whole deal, is
Okay.
we get both of them.
Do I
And
move?
I am completely fine with what Rowan described. I think it just makes for a nicer property to make that parking and green space. So, when my mother lives in town, and when she drives by, I want her to be able to tell her friends that I own that place. So,
So those two parcels are common ownership? Paul Bennett, okay.
yeah.
Any other questions?
Rowan, or do they need any additional approvals to improve parking on the site?
No, I'm confident they'll be able to meet our ordinance requirements by adding formal parking in that area.
Okay,
I'm gonna ask a question.
go ahead.
First of all, will the squirrels be okay with you improving?
I shouldn't have told you that in the
You should
elevator.
not. No, I am a squirrel lover.
They're already upset.
They're already upset.
We'll rehouse them, though.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So there's an existing house also on this property in addition to the
Yes.
accessory. So is that house kept up, occupied?
Yeah, that's occupied, that's not condemned. The back building is.
Just the back accessory, okay.
They had reports that people were living in there, which they never were, so the city came out and condemned it, so nobody could actually be living in that building.
Gotcha.
But there's there's electric, but no water or sewer in that
In
building.
that, okay. No. Thank you.
And I think you'd be okay if you went, when they opened it up in August, and took the squirrels with you.
Yes.
As long as you took something, he said. Okay, all right, yeah, that was my question also. You'll own the house, you'll rent that house out, you live next door. Okay, got the bigger picture now. Okay.
If any of you think I'm crazy for doing this, you have more experience than I'd like you to talk to me afterwards.
No, I think it's a very unique building. It's
Yeah.
very, very interesting. Okay, any more questions? No? Yes?
I think I have
Mr.
one. I think
Zeitzer.
it's more for Rowan. When you had mentioned that currently it doesn't meet the green space, but by adding these, you require less green space. But by adding the other lot, would that allow us to put more green space
Yeah,
in?
it certainly could bring it closer to conformance with that additional lot.
It's for the squirrels.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else? Sure? Okay, all right.
Thank you.
What, Mr. Lewis, what would you like to do?
Do we need to accept public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do. Is there anybody who would like to talk to us about 1111 Second Street Northwest? I saw that there was one letter of support in file, and per testimony, it sounds like a few other folks were happy to see this get cleaned up.
Had anything else come in?
Yep, that was correct. Some testimony from the applicant via email to myself about the individuals that he spoke with, and then, excuse me, we received an additional letter of support from a local rental management agency in town.
Okay. All right.
Motion to close the public hearing?
It's been seconded by Ms. Swanson. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. What would you like?
All right, I'm going to proceed with a motion to approve the variance request, dimensional variance request. Exceptional circumstances, the building has existed on this lot for over 100 years and in this configuration. That is itself is an extraordinary or exceptional circumstance. Number two, here we go, substantial property right. Other owners of, vacant buildings that weren't in setbacks would be allowed to redevelop or repurpose their buildings into housing or other allowable uses within the zoning district. By not having a variance, he's doesn't have a substantial property right, or he's lacking a substantial property right for redevelopment. Three, not self-created. Building, again, has existed on the lot in this configuration for 100 years before the setback requirements were put into place. Four, no substantial detriment, as evidence from letters of support from the neighborhood and no letters of opposition or opposition from neighborhood groups. It's clear that this would not be a substantial detriment to the neighborhood. Contrary to that, the current existing condition is a substantial detriment to the neighborhood. It's been condemned and it's been a nuisance for years. And five, alignment with the ordinance and master plan. An important goal of the master plan is to allow a greater variety of housing types within the LDR districts. Reuse of an existing building to support these variety of housing types as well within the goals of the master plan, and I think it's a very good example of what it's trying to accomplish.
Can I suggest one amendment?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Just to note
Can you
that-
support it first?
Oh, support.
Okay.
Do you want to mention the letters in the record of neighbor support?
Yes, I will accept the
Okay.
support of letters of record, and then also to accept the recommendation to combine the lots as a condition of approval.
Did you want?
That's what I was going
Oh, okay. Okay. So we've got support for the basic motion. So you're asking for him to combine the ownership of the lots. I don't think we have to say anything about the number of units, because he'll work with building on that, and he's well within property. Do you want to make any comment or direction for staff about the use of 1105 to be parking and green space in support of the 1111?
No, I think as long as it conforms with typical zoning requirements.
That staff will take care of that? Okay. Is that okay with you, Ron?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we've got a motion to approve and a condition to combine the two lots, 1105 and 1111. All those in favor? Well, wait a minute, sorry.
I just don't understand why the condition on combining the lots.
Can you use your microphone? Sorry.
I just didn't understand the condition on why combining the lots, the owner, we don't know the structure of the deal and whether there's two separate entities that would be as a purchaser. I thought his testimony was that there is currently common ownership, but are we then?
If the lots get combined after purchase, then it's a single lot in the future.
But we don't know that, I mean, you could conceive that he would use two different entities to purchase the two different lots, then there would not be common ownership. And, I mean, are you requiring that the applicant have the two separate lots purchased by a single entity because they're currently owned by a common owner?
And then combined into a single lot? Yes.
That's what he
But
testified to.
how would we be requiring the applicant? So you're saying that the applicant cannot have two separate entities that would all purchase the separate lots so that because then there wouldn't be common ownership? Just trying to understand just missing that.
He testified to the fact that he did not have a problem with combining the two lots. And I think, why don't you explain it, Mr. Brady?
Yeah, so as it exists, lots of common, let me back up. Our ordinance says that non-conforming lots under common ownership are treated as the same. These are conforming lots of common ownership, so they're treated separately. And with staff's recommendation that the lots be combined, the request for the variances is only the items highlighted in orange and purple on the screen. If there wasn't a condition of approval, I would ask the board to consider an amendment to the motion to account for the side setbacks, both on this portion here of the shared property lines between the two. So the condition of approval is really a function of trying to reduce the amount of variances that would be needed to support the conversion of this structure to a primary structure. Building code might also have maybe some additional implications that I didn't initially talk to them about with that proximity to the property lines. And that's a conversation I would be happy to have with them. It is our recommendation that there be a condition of approval for a combination of the two lots.
And Rowan, to combine the lots is the plan of the applicant, and I believe he testified that.
Correct, yeah.
This was planned anyway, so it does not seem like it would be a hardship that it's actually something that's being requested.
Yeah,
So,
Ms. Lockman, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you maybe have a concern that this condition would require one entity to purchase both lots as opposed to potentially two different entities purchasing the lot?
I just am sensitive to the issue about the requirement of the common ownership rule that requires a combination of non-conforming lots, and these are not non-conforming lots. And I just am sensitive to requiring lot combination when it's not required. But I'm the only one who is concerned with that so.
Yeah, I mean, if the board wishes to amend the motion to account for those two additional variances, I'm happy to write those up very quickly.
and I would be more concerned if we were imposing this on the applicant. But considering he testified that this was his plan, I think that we're simply granting the variance that he's requesting.
Okay, I'm just going to call the question as it stands and see where we go from there, okay? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve with the combination of 1105 and 1111 Second Street, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. We're good? You're good. All right, work with staff after today, and you'll be on your way. Okay. Our next agenda item is 465 Fuller Southeast. Mr. Rowan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The next case on the agenda is 465 Fuller Avenue Northeast. The following variances are being requested to provide privacy to an existing business. The request is a dimensional variance of 40% visible light transmission to reduce the required 70% visible light transmission to 30% visible light transmission. A visible light transmission is a measurement that determines how much light can pass through a pane of glass or another transparent surface. We essentially use it to determine visibility between an exterior and an interior of a building. That's how our ordinance kind of defines visible light transmission and why it exists. I would like to highlight that this building and this site, which is located on Fuller Avenue, north of Michigan, did come before the Board of Zoning Appeals in 2017 to construct the building and the site, which is shown there. The site is very unique for the area. It's got a lot of topography, and the building has 3 tenant spaces and a drive-through associated with it. The current applicant is occupying the northernmost tenant space on the site. That tenant space was permitted with a building permit in 2023, and then a zoning compliance case about window film on the property is the action that the applicant is here today to ask for remedy from. The ordinance requirement is that 70%, that all spaces counting towards transparency requirements maintain at least 70% or greater visible light transmission. Our director has written a determination based on industry standards that 68% or above meets the intention of 70%. So the plain text says 70%. Our director has an interpretation about 68% based on industry standards and just how glass is manufactured. The initial review of the tenant fit-out during the initial review of the tenant fit-out, planning staff flagged this business as requiring special land use for medical office in the TNTBA zone district. The architect in Biofuse Wellness, the applicant, stated that they are an infusion spa and not a medical use. Planning staff closed the issue and added a condition on the permit that the use shall not include procedures or therapies requiring medically trained personnel, and determined that this use is a beauty or spa service. That discussion was required because medical uses on the ground floor are special land uses in this zone district. Beauty and spa services are permitted uses. So based on that information submitted by the applicant during the initial building permit, the official determination on this use is a beauty and a spa service. The applicant had a previous location at 1059 Wealthy Street Southeast. I included a photo of that location, and no window film was present at that location. The film was added after a building permit had been issued for the tenant fit out, and the window film was not present on any of the plans. A condition of that building permit was that there are no changes to exterior materials, glazing, openings to any site features, and interior treatment for all existing glazing shall be maintained in its current level of glass clarity and shall meet all transparency requirements of the Grand Rapids zoning ordinance. A condition on the original special land use approval of the entire site and building is that the requirements of section 5.2.14, building transparency, shall be met relative to transparency in VLT, and no reflective mirrored glass or spandrel glass should be used. The applicant did provide several examples of other properties in the area with window film or reduced transparency. I had a chance to look into all of those. The majority of those cases are potentially violations of the zoning ordinance as well. 1036 Fuller Avenue Northeast is legally non-conforming, and 425 Fuller Avenue Northeast, the Walgreens. I conducted a site visit of that location, and it appears to meet the 70% VLT. On the screen, you can see images of the window film that was added to the space. And I will turn it over to Ms. Schaefer for her report.
Thank you, Rowan. So I visited 465 Fuller Avenue Northeast, also picked up a Starbucks, which is going to be relevant because in this building, there's a Starbucks, and then there is a Bros Donuts, and then there is Biofuse in the same building. For those of you who were on the board at the time, you may remember this variance. This was the old Burger King. We argued a lot about parking and traffic flows, and just want to say we were right. It's a difficult parking lot to navigate, but it's a very popular spot with Starbucks. The Biofuse building, I reviewed the windows in the entire building. Starbucks and Bros Donuts both have, you can see into the building from the sidewalk. Of course, with Biofuse, you cannot due to the film on the windows. I also looked at the neighborhood, which includes a bar, and I'm not going to say directions because I'm going to get them wrong. There's a bar over the a little bit of ways away north. Thank you. That appears to have some blinds on the windows, but doesn't appear to be non-conforming. Across the street is a manufacturing industrial facility. Down the street is an appliance store, a Walgreens, as well as a gas station, all which seem to be compliant with the biofilm. So I didn't see other businesses nearby that had similar ones. I did also look at what the applicant provided, as well as Rowan's comments about their non-conformance, and of note, a lot of those buildings weren't near the Biofuse location, like on the same road, same block type of thing is what I'm saying. All that to say is that I'm happy to have the applicant come up and speak to us.
Yeah. We have your name for the record, please.
Justin Bing.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Justin, do you want to make any comments before?
Yeah, so I'll just give a little explanation of kind of who we are and what we do in a sense to give a little bit of aspect to this. So as Biofuse Wellness, we are a health optimization center. We offer wellness solutions from immune support to recovery to cognitive support and cellular health. Our clients are generally healthy individuals, but they expect privacy and discretion when they're receiving services. Our location, as you obviously said, is a high visibility, high traffic corridor directly next to Starbucks with a lot of sidewalk congestion, parking congestion, and loitering as well. That corner has a very high population of homeless people, well, whatever you want to say, and we get a lot of that walking through our parking lot, loitering out in front of our store. So that's an aspect of just comfort and privacy as well. The film was installed with a balance of visibility and privacy to be 30% visible, so you still can see in a little bit. When you're inside the store looking out, I mean, it's more clear than those over there. So it's more the seeing in, which is the aspect that's brought to the attention. So we did rely on a professional sign company to do the install. As probably most of you, I had no idea what VLT was before getting a violation from the city. And so, reviewing our lease from the beginning, we saw nothing in our lease agreement of anything on window coverings. And then reaching out to our sign company, they typically do their due diligence on zoning and all that stuff, which we've done in the past. We have multiple locations, and so nothing came to our attention. We got our window decals up, and then it's probably been a year, and then we had this violation. The film serves as a functional safety purpose also. When we are giving some of our IV infusions, blocking the sunlight is, especially that's facing east. And so sunlight coming in is very intense as well. And so that can have a negative effect on some of the solutions that we're providing to people. So, yeah, it's kind of where we are.
Thank you so much. I think you probably saw in the packet that Rowan provided a picture of your previous location. I'm curious to know, there wasn't film on those windows, so why it's necessary here?
So all of our this is our only location that has window film besides like some minor graphics. So our last spot on Wealthy Street, we were just off, what was that road called? Can't remember, Calkins maybe? So it was literally like an alley. And so we had like, basically you could say almost zero walking traffic and very minimal. It was a one-way little street right there. I think it was Calkins, what it was called. So we didn't really need it as much there for the privacy aspect. We would have gotten it if we would have been there longer, but the goal was to not be in that place long-term as we were kind of growing out of it. And so that was our transition to here. Our other locations, like I said, they don't have window graphics either, but every place is a different layout in a sense. And interesting somehow in Grand Rapids, we always get very wide storefronts with a lot of windows compared to most of our other, that's a very uncommon retail setup. Most of our narrow and deep. And so that's kind of how our other ones are set up. And so we don't have to deal with that at all. This Grand Rapids has been the only place that we've kind of had that, and especially here at this kind of high traffic, high visible place. Our number one goal is providing discretion and privacy for our customer base.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there any other questions?
Mr. Lewis?
Do you know if your sign company pulled a permit to put these in place?
I do not know. Based on this, I'm gonna say they probably didn't.
Rowan, do you know that
I did not see a sign permit.
okay. Would they have been required to pull a sign permit for?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would have to defer to our sign administrator. These decals aren't significant commercial messaging. There's no indication of the company's name or logo in those decals. They're more decorative, I guess I would say, and Mr. Bing might correct me on that. So I'm unsure on if these would even apply under our sign ordinance. It's really the light transmission from the violation that the applicant is here today to.
Yeah, and I know we've looked in the past too, and everywhere has a little bit different ordinances of like how much you can cover on windows and stuff, but that's usually the sign companies are the ones to do that as part of their process.
Yeah, I would say I'm a little surprised that your sign company failed to know the ordinance.
Yeah,
This is not a,
well, I was surprised even that, because I didn't know any of this even existed with this building until Rowan told us, in a sense of like this being certain visibility due to like this building alone, basically, almost. Like, it seems like it's a unique thing to our 3 suites with this location.
Okay, Ms. Swanson?
Thinking of your concerns about discretion and privacy, the entrance, the only entrance that your clients use is that main door that's right there in the front by all the windows, correct? So they're engaging and walking through the street and across the parking lots and such?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, as soon as they walk in, our front desk is right there, and then we have, I mean, you can see in this, like, we have an open seating space right in here, and then there's some, oh, yeah.
Oh,
there.
there you go.
Oh, and always on it.
Well, you guys have it on your computer there, I guess.
Right.
So,
But they're entering through that front area?
Yes,
right,
yeah.
Where there's all the traffic. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Lewis?
I have a question for
Yeah.
Rowan.
For Mr. Brady? Okay.
In the modern commercial district, do we have these window transparency requirements, or what other districts require?
So this section of our ordinance lives in Article 2, which isn't zone district specific. It applies to all building transparency requirements, so this would be the same standard across the entire city.
Thank you.
I have a question of the applicant. I went by there, I walked the sidewalk, I walked around the building, and this diagram really helps because all I saw was a waiting area, except for your prep room on the left side of our diagram that we're seeing now. That seemed to have a little bit heavier of a coating on the windows. I could not see what was in that room. And so I'm wondering, is there really a need in a reception area for the film? And also around the corner where really there's very little, there's nobody there except for those that park over there. And the only people that would park over there are people that are coming to your establishment.
You have the drive-through that comes around right to the corner.
Oh, right there?
So again, this is the only reception area that you're talking about. This, we still have people that receive all the
Waiting.
different wellness solutions in an open space, or they have the options through private rooms. So these are the 2 windows that you see in the other image that are not covered, because that's literally our door and then the little 2 windows to the side. So here is where you're talking about. Drive-through wraps around and comes here.
Okay.
This drive-through is, as you said, it's full all day long.
Yeah.
So that's partially too why we did the coverings on
Okay.
the side as well. This one in the prep room is darker, because that's where we do a lot of all of our mixing and everything. And so that is, we did that to prevent any visibility inside of there. And so, I mean, we're willing to obviously reach some kind of solution here. We
Yeah.
just need to also provide privacy for customer base.
I get that. Explain to me the ones with the couches in the other corner, the one to the,
Like this bottom corner?
yes,
So
this-
this is just an open seating area. So a lot of.
like a waiting area?
No, I mean, you can get it, we do a lot of IV infusions, and so you could sit right there and get an IV infusion.
Okay.
Or you could choose to be in a private room.
Okay. Mr. Brady, sorry, ask a question. There seemed to be, if you can go back, I think, a screen, there's a bar there in the windows. okay? So they're kind of split, okay? I'm assuming the top part is not screened. I don't know. Above the bar at the top,
This white
right
part
here, yep.
Okay.
I don't know. I may be wrong. Maybe it's a full sheet on the whole window. But I guess what I'm wondering is there a way to get him where he needs to be by removing some of the bottom and some of the top
Yep.
so that he still has some privacy for his people?
Our ordinance requires that glass devoted to meeting transparency requirements cannot meet that has to meet that 70% requirement. In this zone district, it's 60%.
Okay,
So if the applicant was to use the use the covering on 40% or less of the windows, I believe that would be in compliance with the zoning ordinance. So essentially 40% coverage would, and that's of the entire building facade, less than 40% of application along the facade would meet the requirements of our zoning ordinance. I see that maybe isn't making sense. So-
No, I'm.
So he could possibly,
Well, I want to clarify one thing, because I think there's the 2 feet at the bottom, right? There's a range that it counts in, right? And it's not the bottom and it's not the top, but it's the middle,
Yes,
right?
thank you, Mr. Lewis, for that clarification. So
Oh.
for ground floor transparency calculations, we measure between the bottom up from 2 feet and then to 8 feet. So it's like essentially this 6-foot band that wraps around the ground floor where we measure transparency, and you have to hit the transparency requirement within that band. So the applicant would need to have at least 60% transparency within that band that met the 70% requirement to conform to our zoning ordinance. If that's not making sense, I can draw a little graphic quickly.
No.
so, no, it makes sense. So what you're saying is even if he took off the bottom section, he's not meeting code?
Yeah, essentially, so 2 feet on the bottom would not matter to our code. The window film could stay within the bottom 2 feet, and our ordinance essentially would not care about that space. And then above 8 feet from the sidewalk, again, our ordinance would not calculate transparency on that 8 feet. It's really that middle 6 between 2 and 8 that our ordinance does the calculation.
Is it different that they are, like you said, two different windows, or is like that?
Unfortunately not, it's a set 2 and 8 feet.
I have two questions. Is that?
Yes, go ahead.
Two questions. The first is, is there, I would assume that with this design, there is a greater percentage of window to brick than the average building in Grand Rapids. Is that true?
I would agree with that, yeah.
And my question to the applicant is, I'm not sure I'm aware of any place else in the city of Grand Rapids that has a drive-through as consistently filled and long as this, other than maybe the Chick-fil-A on the corner of 28th Street. But for the fact that your business is, well, two parts. How many feet away are the cars from your building that are in the drive-through, but for the consistent wrapping from a different tenant of your area with these cars, would this be necessary for you? Would you need this except for the Starbucks traffic jam?
I mean, to touch on the point of how far they are, I mean, you can see this single vehicle here. Cars are, like, you literally can't get out of this parking spot for probably half the day, almost. So like these parking spots on this side are kind of pointless. It's crazy here because it's like you could be there for 5 minutes and it's like insane, and then 30 seconds later the place is empty. And then a minute later, it's just crazy again. So it's like, it's so hit or miss, but vehicles are literally 20 feet, 25, 30 feet, if that. But I mean, obviously, it gets a little bit closer to the back of the building because that's where you get right into the drive-through. And I don't know what that picture went away, but that one window on the side is like right there. So that was the first part of your question. If the drive-through wasn't there, I honestly didn't realize this was ever even going to be a problem of doing this, because I've seen a lot of businesses that provide window coverings, even purely just for marketing purposes. I didn't think it was honestly going to even be an issue, and we would still probably look at implementing something, even if it wasn't for that, just for the purpose of, I guess it just depends on the building, really. But again, every building is different, you know, depending on your co-tenants and what the layout is and what's around you. And so that's again why all of our, you know, we have one location that's by a Sam's Club down in Portage. We literally have two, like our whole front of our building is like the two windows there next to our door. So we have like, you can barely even see anything. And our room setups too are, all you see in is like like our front desk. You can't really see anything beyond that, so it's not really an issue there. Our Traverse City location literally has two windows as well. That's more of like an office suite. It was like a radio building before.
Well, and thank you, all of that is helpful, but I'm just trying to clarify for the record that, which you are, you know, I think there are an exceptional number of windows in how the
Yes.
building has been built. I see no trees around it to provide any kind of shade or cooling. But the second issue is, so that's the windows, because you said it can be how the building is and the environment around. And what I'm touching on is that environment around, that you have a co-tenant right next to you that because of how they operate, that is impacting.
Oh, for sure.
That's sort of the double edge, a ton of windows and then this encircling.
Yeah, because you are truly being encircled all day long by Starbucks. I mean, that's the busiest Starbucks in the Midwest, per the landlord.
I believe it.
And yeah, I mean, it makes sense with, many purposes, but the amount of walking traffic going into there, the amount of drive-through traffic going in there, it's pretty, visibility is always great. I'm not going to complain about that necessarily, but we also want to give our customers, obviously, like I said, that aspect of privacy and discretion.
Can I ask a quick question? Because we've been talking a lot about the other businesses. When you leased this, did you know there was a Starbucks and a drive-through that's going to be right around the building?
Yep. Yeah, we knew there was, obviously, we knew the Starbucks was there. I think Bros Doe's was already there, about to open at that point. I didn't think window coverings were ever going to be an issue. I didn't really necessarily realize that was something that we had to put in our initial, planning. And two, going through the signage company, they would have told us what is required based on them knowing zoning and all that stuff as well. And so once we got in, we got the build out done, then that's kind of when we moved on to the next part, which was getting the window coverings. And then that was never brought to our attention of we are in any requirement of, I'm going to say it wrong, VLT, visibility, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Brady, could you flip up to the layout, please? Okay, now flip back, please. Sorry.
You trying to get understanding of the layout?
Yeah, and where, if you took out the front where your door is, and I'm not trying to solve his problem for him, that's not our job, but if you took the transparency off of the door and both panels on either side, would that even get him close to 70%?
Or you mean the 60%?
A good
That's your
question.
reception area, that's your,
Yeah.
whatever, but I'm just trying to figure how much of this has to go in order for him to meet code. And given his circumstances, which I understand, I'm just trying to understand in my mind what 70% looks like.
Yep. Can I?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think I can get you a quick answer.
Can I ask, are you talking about 70% of like the windows themselves or 70% of the visibility?
It would be our ordinance requirement, so it would be like 60% of the area.
That's a car's length away.
Certainly surface area thing then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I get window back here,
Yeah.
but I don't get all of it.
Okay.
But if
You said that
Yeah.
doesn't take into account the
area,
bottom
I
two and
do.
top 2 feet.
So can we get rid of this, which is just checking in? I just don't, I can't visualize the 70%. That's all.
No.
Yeah.
So are you trying to figure out if he needs a smaller variance, or are you
No,
trying to figure
I
out?
just,
I mean, because I think that this would be something that if, we didn't decide to not move forward with the variance, that this would be something that he could work with Rowan and staff on to
that's true.
find a solution that works for the business. And,
And there was, I'm sorry, he had a diagram up on his computer that we don't have of the drive-through. And it's, I can see where that back treatment room needs some screening. I don't know. I'm just trying to get it in my head what 70% is, and if there's a way for him to even meet it.
do you mean,
But you're correct in that if you're going to grant a variance, you may not want to grant it all, or you may want to grant it all. And whatever your decision is, then he would have to work with Rowan to come up with a solution instead of sitting here trying to figure it out, correct?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Does the ordinance take into consideration that idea that if a facade is 100% window versus the building right next door where it just has a single window strip, the different impact that would have? I mean, it sort of
It
seems.
doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
It's just the,
I'd also like to note, and maybe a planner can correct me if I'm wrong, but they would be allowed to put in roller shades or blackout curtains or anything else. They just can't apply the.
to a
film.
certain extent, it still couldn't block out 70.
No, I think they're allowed to do whatever they want.
No.
So yeah, roller shades and window coverings, they can cover 25%
Oh, really?
of the, yeah.
I thought blinds and curtains and those kind of things don't count.
No, there's no exemption for window shades or blinds in our ordinance.
That's the challenge with residential on the ground floor is tenants typically close those shades.
Yeah, they certainly do.
But it also can be such a challenge when you have the sun blaring in,
Right?
and there's certain hours of the day where it can just be really difficult for people to even
Yep,
see a screen or.
right.
Because I even noticed too, and I don't want to, our focus is on us and our customer privacy and stuff, but like Gordon's Foods is right along Michigan corridor there. Every single, they have tons of windows, in a sense, comparable like we do. Every single one of their windows is fully covered, totally inclusive.
Right, but I think that I understand what you're saying, and they're non-conforming too, and I believe the city is they referred them to the enforcement
Yeah.
department for that as well, because, obviously, they only have so many enforcement officers, so it can take some time to get to all of them.
Okay, so,
But that's not something to be taken into account, again, of your proportion of windows to
Yeah.
non-windows.
Yeah.
So on your screen, that blue bar is where we would measure our transparency requirement.
Okay.
So based on ordinance standards, to be approved, a building in this zone district would have to provide 60% of that area as transparent, as glass. And that transparency needs to meet the 70% requirement. My just kind of gut check on the space shown here is it's probably a little bit higher than 60%. Maybe it's getting close to 70. I can try to quickly measure.
so what you're saying is if he does not get a variance, you could work with him on getting him in compliance.
Yes, it would probably require removing a good portion of the window film in that middle space.
Comparably, I could throw a 30% window tint on all the windows, and that would meet code.
Yeah, you could go down to 70%, 68% VLT.
Rowan, do we have a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting next month?
Yes.
You think it would be wise to table this until next month, work with the applicant, looking at solutions, and then bring it back to the board as we'll have a meeting next month?
Potentially, I would leave that up to the board to see if they,
Make a motion.
All right, ready to make a
Yep.
motion?
One of the other things I just
Yeah, I'm
can't
gonna-
help but come back to is we're in a compliance, where it's coming up this way, but if the applicant had known, and there's so many things, right? There's always so many things to try to be figuring out, and I mean that you didn't intuit that this was a truth. But, if he had come and asked, would there have been an inclination to provide approval? I've wondered for a long time how that building was going to get other tenants in it because of the impact that the single tenant has on the entire parking lot. What you're doing, it does require an element of privacy. And just sort of encouraging everybody on the board to think, how would we have looked at this if you'd come in advance to say that this would be the challenge to the space. There aren't any trees. It is very, very sunny, and
And we're a very unique use case as well. Like, our whole industry is very up and coming and very, very new in that sense as well, where providing these types of like retail services. And so it almost, I mean, it's different than any other industry. We're not just a donut shop. We're not providing, to your point, even like you brought up earlier, full-on medical services. It's totally a med spa kind of world, that it's hard to, it doesn't fully conform to everything else in a sense. And there's going to be probably some changes coming with that throughout the country to that aspect. But again, it's a different use case compared to being a donut shop or a Starbucks or a Walgreens or something else. Blood center, like that one blood center, like blood centers and stuff like that, they have full blackout windows for some of that privacy component as well. And so that would, places that need privacy have privacy, get privacy. And so that's kind of a specific use case.
I think,
And I didn't even think, like I said, I didn't think this was going to be an issue.
yeah, I think where we're struggling is if the code can be met in a different fashion, we're not supposed to grant a variance.
Yeah.
So that's where I was struggling as to whether or not this was even possible,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, so.
Yeah.
Up to
And,
you.
yeah, I'm going to make a motion to close. Let's talk. I'll make it.
Let's get a
Yep,
public comment.
Yep, close for, oh, yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't see anybody else in the room. I presume you're here for the other one.
Do you want to
so
talk to us
excuse me.
about this? No?
Okay.
I guess I have one other question for planning, but
Okay,
I could ask
go
it
ahead.
after.
No.
Okay,
Is it to me or to,
planning.
oh, planning?
At some point, was window transparency an administrative departure? Because I swear I applied for an administrative departure on Van Andel.
Administrative departure, that's something the applicant and I briefly talked about. There are administrative departure standards, like there are standards for the variance request. I didn't feel like one of the standards could be met, which was neighborhood character compatibility.
Okay. So, thank you, Ron. So a motion, nope.
Can you just expand on why?
Yep, it was a couple factors. One, this is a TNTBA zone district,
Yep.
thinking about how this decision would potentially impact other requests in the TNTBA district. I didn't feel like this transparency and the deviation from the DLT request would that administrative departure would potentially impair planning's decisions for other similar requests in TNTBA. I think the building, with its transparency, the conditions of approval tied to not only the building permit fit out that had the condition about VLT maintenance and the original special land use approval for this building as well. I didn't feel like it was in my authority based on those prior approvals, or I could meet that requirement about district neighborhood compatibility to approve the administrative departure.
Thank you, Ron.
I have one last item. Rowan, everything you do is always just so perfect, and I'm not sure, I might be mistaken, but I think on page 1, is that August 17 date? Was that?
It says 2025, it should be 2017.
Okay, I just thought we could correct that for the record.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I noted that as well.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Do you want to close the public hearing?
Sure, motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay, why don't you I'll make a motion, then we can see where we're at. How about that? Okay, so this is a motion for a dimensional variance for 456 Fuller Ave Northeast. The dimensional variance is a request to reduce the, sorry, I just scrolled and I wasn't supposed to scroll that far. To reduce the, I totally lost my place, I'm sorry.
Ms. Schaefer, there should be sample language in front of you
There
as well.
is, I'm trying to find the VLT requirement.
This one?
Thank you. Okay, apologies. This is, I'm going to restart. Okay. This is in regards to the dimensional variance request for 465 Fuller Ave Northeast. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow the application of window film that would reduce the visible light transmission, VLT, to 30%. That's a 40% reduction from the 70% visible light transmission. For the following reasons, I make a motion to deny this variance. First, exceptional or extraordinary conditions. In this particular case, while we did note during our conversation today the significant traffic of Starbucks, I did see that myself, as well as the amount of windows in this building. I feel like that this is a recently built retail space in a zone district meant for retail space. In additional substantial property right, that the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of that right. I do want to note that the lack of film could possibly impact the customers in terms of their feelings of privacy. However, as noted around that area, there was not other business owners that enjoyed the use of such a reduction in VLT. Although I would encourage the city staff to continue to address the enforcement issues that were identified by the applicant. Not self-created. In this particular situation, applicant rented this property knowing that Starbucks was there, knowing the services they provide, knowing their clientele, and also knowing that the drive-through would come around that building. In addition to that, they had a previous location that worked fine in terms of not having this film, and so for that reason, I cannot find that it is not self-created. No substantial detriment. In this case, I think that having that film would be a substantial detriment in this particular area. We are really looking to have a walkable, open area that is welcoming to all people in the area. And one of the things that I do want to note is that when we considered the variance to even create this building. We talked a lot about walkability and ensuring that there were steps so people could get to the building. And in visiting this building, it does create a very different feel from the Starbucks and the Bros in the same area. Finally, with the master plan zoning ordinance, I don't think this variance is consistent with that. As noted, that particular district is meant for walkable retail, and I don't feel that this contributes to that. Also, I think that the applicant, as we've discussed with Rowan, has other options in terms of being able to block out 40%, putting 30% film on other areas to bring this into compliance with the zoning ordinance. So for those reasons, I make a motion to deny.
There's a second by Ms. Swenson. Any discussion?
One thing that I didn't
Do you have your
ask-
microphone on? Okay, thank you.
Sorry. One thing that I didn't ask that I wish I would have asked was how long his lease in the space is for. I just think that would be relevant to the extent if he's in a lease for a certain number of years. Some people sign them for 5 years, 10 years, and if he can't operate under that lease, I just think there would want to be able to have that clarity for him, because this would have an impact on whether somebody, it's quite an investment.
I don't know the answer.
Ever had anybody bring that up before, huh?
I don't know the answer to that.
No. I can ask the applicant or we can ask the applicant.
Go ahead.
Chair. Mr. Bing, how long is your lease for?
I don't,
Starting when?
Probably 4 years left.
Okay, thank you.
okay. All right, are there any other questions?
I have questions, I have comments.
Comments, sure.
Commentary. I think I probably disagree with Ms. Schaefer's assessment on a number of these points. I think it's fairly clear that this property has been developed through a exceptional or extraordinary process, right? This is not an as-of-right development. It's gone through multiple public hearings and variances to get created in this fashion, right? This is not a traditional business district building. It's much more of a suburban drive-through building. It's surrounded by a transformer on one side, a highway on another side, a train tracks on another side. This is not a walkable business district. It never will be a walkable business district, despite whatever goals of the planning department or the city might be. And I think that then allows for more consideration as to what should be allowed to happen here. And then I think we can get into some of the discussions on, traffic flows and things like that that are causing negative impacts, I would say, on this retailer. And I understand that negligence on the part of the owner and his contractors isn't a reason to allow. He should have known, right, that he could not have put this here. That said, I think it's a reasonable request that this is an extraordinary circumstance, and I probably could go through not self-created and property rights and things like that, but that's generally my framework for how I think about it.
Yeah, no, I greatly appreciate the feedback. I would just ask you is then, if we aren't going to consider the goals in the master plan in terms of walkability, retail space, then what's the point of having a plan to drive us in that direction, right? So I can completely appreciate you. I probably don't want to admit how often I go to that Starbucks. I completely appreciate what you are saying. And, right, we make plans in zoning ordinances and districts in order to push those areas in those directions. And in this particular case, what I can't get around is I can agree that we had to approve a variance to even create the building, right? The lot's really odd. It's in an odd area with a Walgreens and a bar and an industrial area and then the transformer. Then there's a neighborhood. It's a very odd neighborhood, right? I completely agree with you. And what I can't get around is that this applicant leased this building knowing for this use, and now is saying it doesn't work for that use without complying with our zoning ordinances. And I would completely appreciate if it was something that there were no options for him. However, the testimony and talking to Rowan and all that is that it may not be the perfect solution, but there does appear to be some options for him to be compliant. And so I hear what you're saying, and I think that we've had a lot of things before us where we've held people to that it was self-created standard that had less than the evidence here in terms of he leased the building this way. And he knows what his business is. That's a business decision to me.
I think, sorry, please. Oh, I thought you were going to say. To me, what strikes me is that it feels as though Starbucks is sort of, has no responsibility for how it then is using the space and impacting other tenants. There's one thing that would certainly change how the property operates is not having a drive-through as part of Starbucks, and then it would not create that sort of constant encircling of strangers peering into windows. I didn't get the impression that this wasn't retail. My understanding is it is still, does this not
It's a personal service in a med spa, or that's the applicant's definition. It's a beauty spa service under our ordinance.
But they typically have product to sell, so I didn't understand that just because there were services being provided that there wasn't also retail happening.
It would likely fall under our definition, and I'm pulling up our ordinance to confirm, but a definition of a personal service and retail is a different use category. Oops.
Yeah, and I did not mean to confuse things. I was just referring to retail as just a business in that district, so.
And I guess maybe that's where I was thinking, I hear your concern about, hey, he saw it, he should have known. And my thought was, hey, thanks for going in, because that's otherwise likely would sit vacant, because of how that other tenant is really just dominating the entire area.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I mean, in terms of the impact Starbucks has on there and the traffic flows there, I remember discussing the drive-through for quite a long time when we even approved this building. So that being said, I'm just, in terms of setting precedents is if this is not self-created in terms of it was leased in this condition, he knew what his business was, he knew that they would want privacy to provide this service, and then he put up the film that is not in compliance with zoning. I just don't understand how that wouldn't be self-created. So maybe I can get to extraordinary and substantial, but I don't understand how that isn't self-created.
How I would look at it is Starbucks created. So, I mean, that's how it feels a little bit. Is that by because of the drive-through? Had Starbucks leased the whole building?
They own it.
Well,
they don't.
No,
They just lease it.
They're a tenant,
But-
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
But he bought, or leased knowing that Starbucks was there with the drive-through.
I
And
understand,
I understand
but
he didn't know about the film.
I understand, but I think I'm not unfamiliar with the building myself. I'm familiar with the suites. I'm familiar with the impact that Starbucks has on other tenants or potential tenants, and maybe their preference that while they only lease a portion, they would prefer for it to all be empty because then they have the whole parking lot. I think that because of how one tenant went in, it is a unique situation that would not apply to every other area necessarily around there. This is something that I feel like one tenant is facing because of something else that a different tenant has done.
It's not the scope or role of the use of the zoning ordinance or the variance to a zoning ordinance to correct a dispute or a discrepancy or a difficulty between two tenants in a piece of property. So while I also appreciate that, yes, this is being developed and the person is there, this is also a variance that would run with that property forever, regardless of if Starbucks was there or caused the problem or didn't cause the problems. So Starbucks could expand and they would be able to block in all the windows as well. So I think there's those three reasons that are leading me, along with the fact that there are ways to comply with the ordinance and still meet some of the needs of the business, that would make me still in support of this motion.
And I would also say that I completely understand, what you're saying, and that would be more persuasive to me if he was there first. But Starbucks was there first. Starbucks was the use that came in order to even get this building built. And so he the business leased this knowing that Starbucks was there. So for me, it would be different if he was there and then all of a sudden Starbucks moved in and now he's got a parade of cars going past his business, right? I mean, then I could definitely sort of get more behind, but this was a known sweet mate, basically. So
But
that's where I'm concerned.
That's why I'm saying, I think if we, rather than looking at this as a compliance case, had he come before entering into the lease and said, here's the situation, this is really going to be an unusable suite given what prior decision and allowing for the drive-through, and I'm not taking issue with the fact that it has a drive-through. Good job them being the busiest in the Midwest. Hey, go Grand Rapids. But it absolutely is not normal, right? That the traffic flow in this parking lot, it really is not normal. And had he come in advance and said, we're looking at coming in, having more new business, creating, looks sleek, looks like they take good care of it. We need privacy. Would we be able to do this? I think what we would be debating is, does the prior grant allowing the site plan, you can't anticipate every single need in that moment. Had we deliberated that at the time of allowing for the drive-through, if they'd all come in together, might we have said, yeah, we think this is going to be particularly busy. There are a lot of windows here. And so in this particularly unique situation, this might make sense so that this suite can be used. I mean, I think I've made my thoughts clear that one,
Yeah.
he's in a lease, and that's, I don't know if there is something short of just being able to not have him in a bind, given that I really think without this tenant and prior, how the site was developed, it would be this way.
Yeah, and there was a suggestion that we table this to allow the applicant time to work with Rowan to see what his options may be within the variance, within the ordinances. And so maybe we want to do that, to see if there's a smaller variance we can approve that will be a compromise. Or, depending on what the group would like, we can vote. So
Can he bring it back if he is denied?
he would have to pay.
No, you have to wait a year.
You would have to wait a year
So,
for any
yeah, we wouldn't want to do
request.
that. Yeah.
He'd be barred from any substantially similar variance request.
Yeah, so we wouldn't want to do that, yeah.
And my biggest problem is that it appears that there could be an option out there that meets both the code and his needs. And that's why I have an issue with this. So maybe tabling is,
Yeah, I mean, I think we can table it, and then we can see, and then if after he's worked with Rowan, and there's a sense that, no, we might have to approve 1 or 2 windows, or we can figure something out, then we can certainly have that conversation. Does that seem, okay, so do you need me to withdraw my motion? Yes, okay. Thank you, sorry, I just panicked you, I'm so sorry. Okay, so, I'm gonna.
Have to then
Yeah,
withdraw.
motion, yeah, hold on, wait, motion to withdraw, my motion to decline. You have
is
to,
the support withdrawn?
Well, let's think about that.
Doesn't it even just
Well,
get
you have-
tabled? Doesn't the motion get tabled?
I have to withdraw my motion to deny, and then I do a motion to table.
Because your motion was seconded, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
so we gotta just like do,
Do we need a motion, the second to agree?
Or can someone else second?
Someone else could second it, yes.
This is to table?
Second.
this is,
No, this is to withdraw.
just withdraw my motion so we can get to the table.
Okay.
Okay, and then a motion to table this so
So we
that,
need to vote on the first
Oh,
one to
so-
withdraw.
sorry.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. It's been supported to withdraw the motion to deny.
Yep.
All
Aye.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Now,
Thank you. Motion to table the dimensional variance for 465 Fuller Ave Northeast.
Second.
Second.
okay. Motion to table until our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, with any instruction, any guidance?
My guidance is to work with staff, the applicant, to work with staff to see if a solution can be found within the ordinance or if a compromise can be reached.
Okay? No. All those in favor of the motion to table?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You can work with him over the next month, and we'll be back in September, August.
August. Yep.
Getting ahead of-
Would the board be amenable to a short break so I can discuss with Mr. Bing
Yes.
briefly?
Sure.
And you can all get a
Would
break?
be.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Perfect, thank you.
Chair, is your microphone on, Chair?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The final request on our agenda today is for 15 Congress Avenue Southeast. The applicant is demolishing an existing house and building a single-family home. Several variances are needed to permit the new construction as proposed. The applicant is requesting a dimensional variance of 12.5 feet to reduce the required 25-foot rear yard setback to 12.5 feet, a dimensional variance of 2 feet to reduce the required 5-foot side yard setback for a detached accessory structure to 3 feet, a dimensional variance of 12 square feet of transparency to reduce the required side transparency of 18 square feet to 6 square feet. The site is located kind of in the eastern portion of the city, indicated there by a star. It is a lot just south of Fulton on one of these small side streets. It's a named street. It's Congress Avenue Southeast, but it is a very narrow street. The demolition of the existing structure will result in the loss of all existing nonconformities of the structure. The side yard being requested is for a proposed carport on the site. The site plan attached to the packet does show a rear yard setback of 20 feet. The requirement of the zone district is 25 feet. We have a departure of 5 feet, and I communicated to the applicant that that's something that staff would be able to offer. So there's just a little bit of miscommunication between the applicant and myself. So the ordinance definition of rear yard setback is 25 feet, but staff would be able to permit down to 20. I wrote the variance request at 25 just to avoid any unnecessary confusion with that administrative departure. Additionally, there is a requirement for a required building line for the front of the structure to be placed at 27 feet back from the curb line. There is another departure available for 10 feet. So as staff was able to reduce that required building line down to 17 feet to get the building as close to the front lot line and out of the required rear yard as possible. So the required building line for the front of the structure is 17 feet from the back of the curb. Despite that administrative departure, the proposed structure still encroaches into the rear yard setback. The existing structure is 11 feet from the rear lot line. The applicant has stated to staff that the structure is intended to accommodate aging in place and necessitates single-level living. The floor plan of the structure shows a bedroom at the front wall, which the applicant stated to staff is the reason for the reduced transparency on the front wall. There's a photo of the existing structure on 15 Congress Avenue Southeast. And then this is the proposed site plan. You can see there the area in orange as the rear yard setback. The applicant is requesting a variance from that setback. You can see the hashed area in red as the proposed structure. And then the applicant has also outlined the existing footprint of the structure in blue. And then this blue box over on the left side of the site plan is the variance for the detached carport. And then the front of the structure, as shown here in purple, the applicant is requesting reduced transparency on the street-facing side of the structure. And I will turn it over to Ms. Schaefer for her report.
Thank you so much. So I had the privilege of looking at 15 Congress Ave Southeast, as noted by Rowan. It's a very narrow side street. It is a one-way street off the main road, and there are predominantly single-family houses immediately surrounding it, although there is a parking lot across the street from it and a multifamily home on the up to the corner of there. It is a very much an older neighborhood, very compact neighborhood. I'm pretty sure the house across the street is basically built on the sidewalk. There's not a lot of spaces, unfortunately, between all of the houses. I would just like to note, what I noticed about this lot is that the house the currently set is not in very good shape. Obviously, the applicant wants to demolish it. It is on a lot that currently is surrounded on both sides by driveways and then houses. And so let's have the applicant come up and talk a little bit about what he would like to do.
Denny Dreyer, 220 and a half Washington, Grand Haven, Dreyer Architectural Group. Ms. Mitchell is looking for a house in Grand Rapids to be close to her grandchildren. And she bought this house, the existing house there, and wanted to remodel it before I looked at it.
Yeah. It's not good shape.
Boy, it's old. It doesn't owe us anything. It needs to be retired. We have 2x4 rafters, some 30 inches on center, spanning 16 feet, you know. I would be afraid to live under that roof for the snow loads, but we finally came to the conclusion that the house needs to come down.
Okay.
And then this, I think, is a very good compromise. It's a single-person house, and she will be here and maybe have her grandchildren here, but it's big enough to have the grandchildren here if she needs to. So with that said, there were a lot of variances on the existing house, and I think we made a good compromise to try and fit it in. Her tastes are Danish modern. She's Danish, so it's Hannah Mitchell.
Unique house.
And this will be a house to grow old in. So
It does seem odd that she does not want a bedroom window. It does seem odd that she does not want a bedroom window.
well, no, we have a bedroom window. I don't want to. One side is the bedroom, the other side of the entrance door is the bathroom, and you're not very far from the sidewalk.
That's what she doesn't want a window to.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I had it flipped
Back of
around.
the house faces south. I love south light. She loves south light. So we didn't put the living room on the north side of the house because she wanted sunlight serving the living room, kitchen, dining room.
Fair. Okay.
So there is a little more space, I think, from her back wall to the neighbor than there is from her front wall to the sidewalk. So I felt a little uncomfortable moving the living room to the front of the house.
And it does look like other than the carport, that really you tried to stay within the footprint of the
Yes.
existing house.
Well, if I move the carport over, I lose windows on the west side of the house.
Right.
I'm too close to the carport to have windows. There was discussion about creating a garage, but the problem with garage is we eliminated windows next to the garage,
Right.
next to the house. So therefore the carport, and we pushed it as far away as we could. We are also requesting that Consumers Power move that power pole back to the property line. It's going to make it difficult to maneuver a car in there. It's going to be difficult to back the car out and not hit that power pole, so.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay.
Maybe I missed it. Why are we not putting the carport closer to the house?
There's a limit to how close you can be to a car with windows on that side of the house. So there was talk about putting the carport on the side of the house or a garage on the side of the house, but you can't have windows. So,
But isn't it 6 feet?
yes,
Isn't, and
Yes.
so if you were 6 feet away, then wouldn't you be within the 5-foot setback if you
Yeah.
had?
it,
So it's not prohibited.
Pardon?
My understanding is that the carport is currently 8 feet away from the house. It could be
Yes.
6 feet away from the house. If it was 6 feet away from the house, then that would mean that you're 5 feet off the side.
and I'm trying to create green space between the carport driveway and the house.
Yes, but you said that you had to have the carport further away, but you don't have to. The carport could be 2 feet closer to the house.
Could be, yes,
And then
it
you
could,
would
yes.
not need the variance
Well,
for the side
is it-
setback.
5 feet for the accessory building?
5 feet, you would have to meet the 5-foot side setback. And if the carport was 2 feet closer to the house, which you'd be permitted to do, then you would not need the variance for the side setback to be 3 feet instead of 5 feet, right?
Yes. Your thinking is correct.
Okay.
Does that help? Okay.
Is there any other questions?
I'm trying to look at a couple of different diagrams and figure out what, there seems to be a bump.
Can you go over?
Yeah, can we see the diagram, the layout?
Yep.
It looks like there's a 6 by 14 here. Is that the kitchen? Living room. Okay. Okay.
Can you pull up the diagram that shows the different setback requests?
Yes. Oops, excuse me. This one, Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, and so on that drawing, you can get to a 20-foot administratively, but that bump into the rear yard 20-foot is,
Yep. Mr. Lewis would be referring to the living room.
So the 6 foot into the back is what's the problem?
Mr. Dryer, the board is asking you about this space here. Why is that needed?
Just to make the living room large enough to live in, excuse me. My doctor's calling me. She does have 5 grandchildren, and she does anticipate the grandchildren coming and being with her and living, not living with her, but being there at times. So it's nice to have a living room that's
usable.
Yeah.
So the front entry canopy, that's not in the request. It's the bump in the back and it's the carport.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and the living room, inside wall to inside wall, is about 13 by 13.
Oh, and the window transparency in the front. Those are 3 separate
Yes.
requests, essentially.
I had a question about the dimensions in the 1938 review, application review. It mentioned the lot was 36 by 66, but then I thought I saw someplace else in the record on the application, it says the lot size is 53 by 62.
Yeah, the 53 by 62 is what I measured based on the Kenton County parcel map. So it's possible the lot has changed shape since the 20s, or it was the 20s and they may not have had
Had a long enough measuring
Yeah.
tape.
Keep in mind that in those days, they were measuring with chains and rods.
Very different. Very different.
Okay,
I have a question in regards to the transparency.
yes.
So the front, your reasoning was because there's a bathroom in the front? That's why you would not have the window? Is that correct?
On the,
So that's facing north, that would be west?
yes, the bathroom is in the right-hand corner.
Yep. And that faces the front,
Yes,
Congress, correct?
yes.
So you could feasibly flip the bathroom into the utility room, put the utility room up front, and then put a window in there, right? And that might save a little money, because then all your
I'm
plumbing's.
sorry, I tried to do that, and she doesn't want the bathroom, she wants the utility room next to the kitchen.
But there is a solution to get the window and the transparency.
Yes.
And we can't, with the way the house, and I'm sorry, do you mind if I go?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. With the way the house sits, with the front setback, how much room do they have to go forward? Are they?
No.
And I'm looking at all the other houses in the neighborhood that are almost on the sidewalk.
It's an excellent thought, Mr. Zeiser. So the way our ordinance is written is we have a required building line, which is the required distance a structure must be built at relative to the street. It's not a setback, it's a build-to line. And our ordinance requires that we measure all of the houses in proximity to determine that required building line. Where that measurement comes out less than the ordinance says, we default to the ordinance. And the ordinance says 27 feet is the from the back of the curb line.
Right.
Of course, that's generally pretty applicable in streets that have parkways and sidewalks, and this is a very uncommon street in the city. So we as staff have the flexibility to vary that required building line by 10 feet, which is what we did to get down to the 17. Administratively, that's the closest we can get the structure to the street.
But you could argue that moving it closer to the curb line would be a better argument for substantial property right than pushing it back towards the rear.
I
Right.
would leave that to you.
You're absolutely right. All those buildings are, you should see the existing footprint line. Almost every
I'm not trying to
building on
solve it, I'm
that
just trying
street
to-
are
There are solutions.
a lot closer.
Thank you.
I have two questions for planning. What's the percentage of, like, how much more glass do they need to add on the front?
On the front, I believe it's 20%. So
Which would be about how many windows?
maybe 1.5 more windows.
Okay.
Just so sorry, go.
No.
Just so I understand the question that you were asking, and so it is that the build-to line would normally be where the current existing front part of that footprint is, or that 6x6 entry canopy?
A build-to line would apply to the front of the structure. Things like porches and canopies can extend out further from
Further.
that build-to line. Yep.
Okay.
I thought the required building line, I thought the concept at least was, you got a wall of buildings, therefore you want your building to line up with that wall of buildings, right? But what I'm hearing you say is, I got a wall of buildings and I got to move this thing further back from it.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think-
because where I can pull up the ordinance section where it says,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
and
agree.
while Rowan is doing that, I do just want to note is that the houses on that road are all built in varying degrees from the sidewalk. I mean, there's no uniformity to be had in this neighborhood. So I made the comment about on the sidewalk because it was just very notable. But it's not that all the houses are built right to that same part on that road. And of course, they're directly across the street is a parking lot, so it's hard to,
I
but,
thought a lot of them were closer to the road than not.
I mean, definitely closer, but just not on the sidewalk. I just didn't want my
Oh.
comment to be taken as they were all in line when that isn't the case in that neighborhood. There are varying historical setbacks, is how I will put it. A lot of very old homes that were built when the ordinances weren't.
So
Yeah.
sorry, Ms. Shea.
No, go right ahead.
It's based on this language here. For all residential dwellings on all lots, the required building line shall be equal to or the median of the front setbacks of existing main buildings on the same block. For the purpose of this calculation, the same block is defined as both block faces in the same zone district, not to exceed 5 lots on each side of the subject parcel and 5 lots across the street. And then here's the key part. In no case shall the RBL be less than the minimum established in the table 5.5.06.A, which says for this zone district, 27 feet.
Okay. What would be the average? Did you actually figure that out?
I did. I don't have it in front of, I believe it was like 13, 14 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's close.
But I hope I'm understanding, because we also are dealing with, provided that no side yard shall be less than 5 feet. So So we have a couple where it says we can't go outside of that. On this, to have it be congruent with the neighborhood, because there's not, if I'm tracking, there's not any request for a variance to bring the house forward to be congruent with the others. But if it was congruent with the others,
They would still need a variance, right? Because it would be less than 17 feet. So they're going to need a variance either way, if that's what you're,
well, yeah, I guess I'm just trying, more than anything, trying to understand.
Yeah.
No opinion, just trying to make sure I'm understanding, because, so right now, the proposed, they would only, if they went to where it was congruent, if they're 17.5, they'd only pick up 4 feet in the front, but they're looking at going 6 feet further back, so then they'd need a variance in the front and in the back. Correct.
yeah. And it really looks like they're sort of flipping over the existing footprint to add, because it looks like there's a blue line, sorry, if anybody's looking, I'm looking at page 70. You know, there's a blue line in the back, and then, thank you. So they would, if we move the house forward, they need a variance. If we leave the house where it's at, we need a variance for one or the other, basically. Am I understanding that correctly?
Or both.
Or both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree that based on the current proposed footprint, if the structure was to move forward to meet the established RBL at 14 and a half feet, it would still encroach into the required rear yard setback.
Yeah.
I wonder if in this case, before we get into motions and discussions, I guess, as these variances do run with the land, and it seems like you might want to have flexibility in the future to align buildings with each other, right? The intent is to have an RBL. So to strike the language of, but not less than in this case, right? So if 100 years from now, they tear this thing down and the RBL's moved a little bit, right, you could still have this idea that this building should conform with the street wall there, right? Because the lot is always going to be narrow compared to any other city lot on a funny street.
Funny Street is right, yeah.
Again, just to make sure I'm understanding, not expressing an opinion. Under the existing footprint, if the foundation wasn't removed, then there's no variance needed, right? Or do you need like a certain amount of wall preserved or something? Because the backyard, it encroaches in the backyard setback towards the center, but this is saying instead, we're going to flip it.
Yeah, Ms. Stockman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're getting at the loss of the nonconformities. When is that triggered? Okay, so our ordinance says that when a structure is destroyed by an extent 75% or more of its replacement cost, exclusive of the foundation, then it must conform with all requirements. So if the structure, everything but the foundation is destroyed by 75% or more of its replacement cost, then it must conform with the ordinance. So,
But essentially, then, if the owner just removed the roof, went down to the studs inside, no variance would be needed, likely.
potentially, yeah.
The question about the foundation got me thinking, are you, when you say you're demolishing it, are you using any of the existing foundation to build? No, you're starting from scratch.
I could not find a footing with a prod.
Okay. If I was an architect, I'd know what that meant, but everybody seems to think that's a bad idea, so okay, I'll go with it.
Okay. Any other questions? No?
Yeah, I guess, would you design it this is how she wants it, right? Are there other options or configurations, like if we gave you more flexibility, like drew a box and said you can build within this box, you know, would you think about it differently, or is this really kind of what you guys want?
I would orient the living space to the house to the south to pick up daylight. As much as I like front porches, I don't like my front porch 12 and a half feet off the curb. From that standpoint, she is a sunshine person along with me. She agreed that the living room, kitchen, dining area really should be on the south part of the house rather than the street side.
No problem.
And actually, if you were to move the bedroom to the south side of the house, the neighbor on the other side of that property line is damn close. They're like 5 feet off the property line. So she's got a privacy issue no matter where she goes. So she doesn't have a house at the driveway. She's got cars and people walking by on the north side, but you won't get any sunlight in there either. So no matter how much glass you put in there, I'm not going to get any daylight coming through that. And she doesn't have privacy up there. So was it designed that way? It was designed that way on purpose to put the living on the sun side of the house.
But then that begs a question, because there's a lot of area in this envelope that is not used, and it seems as though much of that is driven by the carport, but you had already said that the carport isn't necessarily even usable until a utility moves the pole in it. I don't know about your experience with utilities, but I don't think they
She's
move
willing to
the pole.
pay for it being moved.
I'm just not,
She's been told how much it will be
and that they will do it.
If she pays for it.
at her expense.
Okay, but am I correct that it's really the carport then that's driving it? Because there's a lot of area within the envelope that is going unused.
You mean to the west of the house?
Yes.
She is looking to grow a garden.
But that could be done in the back of the house.
Yes, but she's looking for it in the back of the house and between the carport and the house.
To answer your question, Ms. Hockman, yes, because there's setbacks between structures and carports and side yards. So the separation distances between all of those is dictating the placement of the building. The lot is required to provide parking in some fashion, so if we could potentially talk about increasing the building envelope, which would change the request for potentially a waiver of parking, I would defer to the applicant on if that was the route that they would want to go. That's not something we had discussed before.
I'm just saying, okay, and the carport needs to be that much further behind the front line of the house? The carport's not even with
It was moved
the-
there to create a parking space between the sidewalk and the carport.
Can I just,
Yes.
just to pile on what you had just said, you made me think about that. And I don't know if this is necessarily a question, but it's more of a statement that in theory, you could build a small 1,000-foot Cape Cod with a garage on this and be completely compliant. And I think that's what we're looking at, regardless of whether there's a carport or not. We can put a garage there. They just don't want to do it because they want more light. We can put windows on the front. Like, you could put a nice little house there and be completely compliant, energy efficient, what have you. And I think that's what we should be looking at, not what works and what doesn't work. But the fact is, you can build something there and be compliant, and not without reason. I think that's what you were trying to get at.
I have a question. Could it be compliant? Would it still need a variance for the back or the front?
I mean, there's a pretty big, and they're not dimensioning the box, the buildable box right now, but, you know, it's what, about 28?
By 30 feet,
Yeah,
it looks like, roughly.
yeah. No, yeah, what's the? It's a decent
You
size.
could get pretty close
Yeah. I mean,
with a single stall garage.
they could build it without a variance, I would think. I also think I'm personally more amenable to allowing for a variance in the front yard to make it more aligned with the neighborhood than the rear, personally. I guess, but we're in discussion now, we're really in public hearing.
Yes, we're still in public hearing. Does anybody have any questions of staff or of the applicant? Okay, I don't see anybody else in the audience, so we don't have public comment. Do you want to close?
Yeah, sure. Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. Now we're in public, now we're in discussion.
Okay, so I'm a little torn by this one, so I'd really welcome people's input, and I'll explain my reasoning. Having somebody come in and want to remove an eyesore in a neighborhood and build something new is very attractive in the city of Grand Rapids, and I think in alignment with what we would like to do. In addition, the house is substantially in most of the existing footprint, and that just happened to be non-conforming. So there's part of me that's like, well, they just renovated the house, which I can appreciate they can't do, but then aren't we just penalizing them for wanting to have a safe home? But your points are well taken, and one of the points that we, James and Larry, is that one of the things we have to find is not self-created. We just talked about, right, the previous one, and that's where I'm struggling here, because I think that the architect noted a number of preferences the homeowner had about their house. And those are choices, right? And those are choices. So that's where I am struggling with this particular ordinance, because my heart says the house would look great. It would look great in that neighborhood. The neighborhood needs some love. It would be a great investment. The person that's on the Board of Zoning Appeals is saying, I don't know how I get around that this isn't self-created. So happy to hear everyone's thoughts and get a sense of where we're going so I can make a motion that's successful.
I have like one thought or concern that if we deny this motion, that they couldn't come back with another similar variance, right? If they wanted to try a different configuration. And I wonder if it's worthwhile getting some feeling about how the board is looking and then tabling and seeing if they want to come back with something else. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I do want to note about the carport versus the garage is that a lot of in the neighborhood don't have either. They're just parking on sort of the driveways. So I do want to note that so that we're not imposing like that we think there's a garage, like they want a carport kind of thing. But if there's something that we're comfortable with and that we want to, table and then have Rowan and the architect work to see if they can make it work, we can certainly do that. The one thing that I am not for is the window in the front. I think that there are a number of ways that you can put a window in that bathroom and still have privacy. And so that is one that I will say that I'm not supportive of that variance, but in terms of the side setbacks versus the front setbacks to the back setback to the carport and all of that, like I'm amenable to if we wanted to provide some recommendations and then ask, because I agree, I don't want to send them away and then they don't have any recourse. Any further recourse. If they do need some sort of variance, which is highly likely considering the neighborhood where the house currently sits, and it's just very old, and I would hate to hem them in if they didn't have any options.
I appreciate those comments, and I do think that that's helpful, and I appreciate not wanting to strap people up so that they couldn't come back. I have, to me, the side setback is a non-starter because there's testimony on the record that says the carport could be 2 feet closer to the house, and if it was, then there'd be no need for a variance, and there was nothing explained about why it needed to be 2 feet further over other than mere preference. And I do think that there is I think it's important to note that carport, garage, off-site parking, those are, I think, would all individually probably constitute a substantial property right. Building a carport is not the same as building a garage, and if somebody on another lot has a right to build a carport, then even if it could fit a garage, I think a person still has the right to build a carport instead of a garage for any number of reasons, but I think that would constitute a substantial property right. I think that on the, hold on, there was one more that I know. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the ordinance already, as is shown in the staff report, which I thought was really exceptional, is that it shows there's already consideration given for the size of the lot. So it is a lot that is not having the standard setbacks and such applied. There's already within it said, we know this is going to be a little unusual, so we're going to, by default, give you different, you already will get different rules applied. That, I don't think I articulated that very well, but, and the other thing.
I think that you're referring to the administrative departures that are allowed and that they can work with. Is that what?
Well, it was talking about, yes, that they are able to get down, because it was kind of showing we're already making this give, and now in addition, looking for further. And then there was another point that I made in my notes about that you're supposed to have a total of 12 feet between the 2 side yards, and this would take it down to 8. Oh, so no, you're supposed to have 14. And then with the administrative departure, you can get down to the 12, but then this would even take it down further to the 8. And I just thought that all seemed like, maybe this isn't the lot she wanted to buy, Maybe she meant to buy a different lot or something, but that was, So to put a pin in it, my thought is the side yard setback, to me, there's no justification. If we're, contemplating holding it for another meeting, that would.
So I think I'll just add, I think, Ms. Schaefer, I'm in agreement with you. I think I'm amenable to the dimensional variances. I struggle with the window. I think it changes the whole nature of the streetscape when you eliminate windows. Mm-hmm. And I think we've addressed other cases where people have wanted to do buildings or adjustments in their front yards that remove windows, and I think there's a big safety component to that for the entire block. So I'd be agreeable to tabling and letting the applicant work with staff and maybe finding some adjustments, because I don't want to limit or restrict somebody's ability to build new housing in the city. So just a couple of my thoughts.
I agree. I grew up in a house where there was a window over the bathtub.
I mean, I have a window in my,
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I guess
Mary?
go ahead.
Again, there's internal design things that can be looked at.
Could have a frosted window
Yeah.
to a certain VLT, of course.
Yeah, so that's where I'm coming from too. I think having some time to relook at
I'm sorry.
I guess I'm wondering, board members generally, front yard setback, rear yard setback, do people have much of a preference between where they're setting back?
I mean, I would if I thought that it was going to completely disrupt the neighborhood, but considering, that there's really no uniform in that particular neighborhood, I mean, I don't think that it's going to disrupt the look of the neighborhood, basically, but I don't have a preference either way, but if somebody feels strongly, please.
I'm just trying to
Correct
give
me.
them a little feel for how, if they're going to come back and they're going to do some work and design it, right? If there's members that are strongly opposed to, going further into the front yard or further into the rear yard.
My impression when I went by the house was that where the house is right now is consistent with the people on either side of them, especially would be the south, I think. Anyway, so I thought it was kind of weird that we were asking them to move it back and then asking for a backyard setback. But the only reason I would even worry about that is if they still want the depth. If they can find a way to get rid of the extra 3 or 4, feet, whatever it is, and everything fits, then it would be different. I would rather see them move forward a little bit, be consistent with the neighborhood and do, But it's neither here nor there to me. This is a 950 square foot building that is currently the minimum he can do is 750. So there's some wiggle room there, but I also would want it to be livable. And
Yeah, and I struggle with that too, right? I think, once we start getting below that, that 34 feet of total depth,
Yep.
right, you really struggle to get 3 rooms, right, in a row.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
Yeah. I think the general, if I can summarize for the group, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think what we're requesting is that if I make a table motion, then ask them to look at how the building is set on the particular lot and what they're asking for, and to minimize the amount of variances that they're going to need, and also to understand that in general, this board would like them to meet the, I'm not going to say the window transparency, thank you, the transparency requirement, and to have enough windows on the front, as well as to take a look at where the carport is situated to see if that is a way to do that, as testified that they would not need that setback, or that variance. But Rowan, did you want to?
Yeah, the applicant just informed me of some timing challenges and that they were amenable to the carport and the transparency, but asked if maybe further consideration on the rear yard setback today.
Yeah, and we can ask the board, I don't have an issue with the rear setback. I think it's pretty minimal changes from where it currently exists, and I don't think that it's going to interfere with the neighbor. So in my mind, if they're willing to compromise on the carport as well as the window, then I think that's a reasonable way forward for us. But if somebody feels differently, please let me know.
The other thing I just want to state on the record is that one of the things we discussed is that if it kept the current footprint, it would still be in that rear yard setback, and that many times the way that people will maintain that non-conforming dimension is by keeping that 70%. But as he stated in testimony, there's concerns about the footing and the foundation, which would lead to a safety issue. So that probably creates a little bit of a unique situation where they're kind of flip-flopping which backside is there. And
to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so I saw a lot of nodding heads, so why don't I make a motion, and we can see where we're at, okay?
Can I ask a question? Is it better to do 3 motions or 1 motion with building?
You have to be 2.
I think I have to do 2. I think I have to do 1 for,
There's 3 different variances, aren't there?
but I can combine the side and the transparency.
Combine them, or is it cleaner if you do all 3 separate?
I think you could do it either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to be really clear, Larry, but you tell me if I fail. I mean, no, seriously, tell me if I'm not. Okay, so, give me 1 second. So why don't we do what I think are the easier one to do. So this is to consider the 2 variances requested by the applicant for 15 Congress Ave Southeast. This is both for the transparency to reduce the side transparency, as well as to reduce the setback for the detached accessory structure, which would be a carport. For this reasons, I make a motion to deny those variances. First, exceptional, extraordinary circumstances. We heard testimony here today that the transparency as well as the carport setback were both the preference of the applicant as opposed to a circumstance of the lot or the building. Substantial property right, I mean, there are other houses in the neighborhood that have places to park the car. That being said, I saw every other house had windows in the front. So there's no substantial property right to reduce the transparency to the house. Not self-created in this particular case is, again, per testimony, there was a preference to not have a window in the front bathroom for privacy reasons, as well as to have the carport further from the house in order to accommodate light. And so therefore, I find that it would be self-created. No substantial detriment. There was no evidence on the record that either of these would create a detriment to the neighbors. However, the board did note that the lack of a front window would be out of character for the neighborhood, as well as maybe cause safety concerns. And finally, master plan zoning ordinances. This is in alignment with, in general, the zoning ordinance in terms of creating housing within a residential neighborhood. That being said, there's transparency as well as side setbacks in order to ensure that we are complying with the ordinance. So for those reasons, I make a motion to deny. This is for the two variances, the transparency variance that was requested, as well as the side setback variance for the accessory dwelling unit, also known as the carport.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Any comments or additions? No? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay. This is a motion to approve a dimensional variance of 12.5 feet to reduce the required 25 rear yard setback for 15 Congress Ave Southeast. The exceptional extraordinary circumstances are such that the original house was built quite some time around. It's now in an unrepairable condition. The footprint of the current house has obviously always been there. The lot is similar to others in the neighborhood. However, the neighborhood, due to its age, has significant variances in how the houses are placed on the lot. In addition to that, there is a substantial property right to have a house on a lot in a residential area, which is what this applicant would like to do. They did look to renovate the existing house, however, due to safety concerns, that was not possible, and thus they need to replace it with a new one. Not self-created in this particular case. The existing house, there were a number of non-conforming elements to where the current house is standing. The applicant attempted to put the house back in the existing footprint as much as possible without deviating too much. However, due to making it livable, make it safe, they are asking for this variance. No substantial detriment. Again, this is a residential neighborhood of mostly single-family houses. This single-family house would replace a current single-family house, and there would be no detriment to the neighbors or the neighborhood. Master planning zoning ordinance. This is, again, a residential neighborhood where the applicant wishes to build a residential house, and it would be in alignment with the master plan to have housing available for the citizens of Grand Rapids. For those reasons, I make a motion to grant the variance.
Just one additional point, if I may.
Of course. Can we get a support?
Support.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry, is that in this new proposed plan, it actually reduces the current side yard setback to the east, and it also brings the structure into greater compliance in the front yard setback, and it does not create any additional total burden in the area in the backyard is no greater in total space than the current non-conforming area in the back. It is just simply moving that existing non-conforming area from the center towards the east side of the building. So we aren't permitting a greater non-conformance than is already existing.
Accept.
I'd like to offer a friendly motion.
Of course.
Amendment.
Wait a minute, 1 second. I said I accepted, but
Support.
thank you.
I wonder if you'd be willing to accept an amendment to set the RBL consistent with the other buildings in the neighborhood, which would allow them more flexibility in design and somewhat set a precedent for this required building line.
Oh, okay.
I just think it gives them more flexibility as he.
Are you proposing that as a requirement or a possibility?
Well, I think my understanding of how an RBL works is the planning department does have flexibility to move front or back from it, right? So they have some movement from there. Right now, what we're doing is we've kind of said the required building line is 27.5 feet from the street. Rowan administratively can move it up to 17.5. So it's just kind of an arbitrary spot, right, at this point in the ordinance, right? We just happen to be here. What I'm trying to say is, let's kind of say an RBL is there for a reason, right? We want to set a street wall. Therefore, let's, instead of saying 17 feet off the street, right? Let's say we use the RBL that runs with the land consistently. So as the street changes and as the ordinance changes, it makes sense.
But that's my question in terms of requiring it. Are you requiring it of the applicant, or are you proposing that the amendment to the motion would allow the applicant to go?
Requiring it of the applicant, but my understanding of how the planning ordinance is read is there is some flexibility, like 13 feet isn't, like you don't have to build on 13 feet. You are allowed to build within a couple feet of 13 feet, but the idea is to set the 13 feet.
I think there might be a different variance.
I concur that it would be you would
You'd
likely
have
have
to
to make another
front
motion on that
variance.
to create a dimensional variance for the required building line, which if the board, I can draft that language really quickly if the board would like that.
But I mean, I think for right now, if we grant the back setback, they will have that. I hear what you're saying, but maybe we want to talk to Rowan later about just in general how they.
I mean, if the
to
board
line
wants to apply
we
that
could
to
do an
this case,
application.
yeah, I can type up that motion language quickly.
Especially because he did mention that there was something time sensitive and a second application would be a second fee.
If it's tabled, it would not be another fee because we don't have to notice again.
But then we would have
I mean, we could give them some, it does run with the land though, right? And so I'm always a little cautious about over granting. That being said, if we give them the rear setback and then he comes back and he's like, well, I needed a foot on the front, is that really in line with, what we want to do here?
Because then you've just added even more square footage. 'Cause
Right.
You've given them the back, and now you're giving them the front.
Yeah, so I mean, he's compliant right now, and this is how they do the plan, so I'm of the mind that we grant what they've requested.
Okay.
Anybody?
They were good with that.
Yes, that's what was proposed, yeah.
Plus, if I remember correctly, we would have to table it because we'd have to renotice it
Okay, yeah, no, I
with a
don't.
change, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And if it's any assurance, I wouldn't be surprised if the preference would be to keep it at the 17.5 if the concern was with the window and
window and
privacy. And
Yeah,
so I appreciate the streetscape, but what if we thought we were helping in?
we heard,
Yeah.
we heard them, yeah, for sure, so, okay. Any other,
You good? Okay. All right. So the motion is to approve the backyard setback
yes,
with comments made, right?
Yes.
Okay, with comments made by Ms. Lockman. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
Whew,
Ooh, nice job, everybody.
first half went like
I
that.
know. I won it, and then I'm the problem.
I know.
And here I sit.
Thank you.
And here I sit. It must be the cookie.
Thank you.
Fired me too.
We kind of like them too. It's nice.
Tyler, you're great too.
We tried to explain this to him, but
He's the
Okay.
quiet strength behind the scenes here.
that's all my budget takes. Do we have any other business?
We do not. We have 3 applications so far for August, potentially a 4th with Mr. Bing at 465 Fuller coming back. So we have an agenda with cases for August, so I anticipate holding that meeting. Circumstances unforeseen, of course, but I'll do regular emails and noticing to you all like I do every month, so.
I thought there was something else I saw. Oh, I saw on the paper that we still have Mr. McCoy down.
Yes, I was going to talk to you after we close the meeting.
Okay,
Ms. Ravel.
so we will close the meeting unless there's further discussion. No?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thanks, guys. We're adjourned.